So, rapper and longtime kung fu movie fan The RZA decided to make a kung fu movie, and the results are mixed. The Man with the Iron Fists is set in the fictional Chinese town of Jungle Village, a town that is overrun by gangs. And the gangs don't really seem to have much of a purpose other than fighting each other, since it's a poor village and there doesn't seem to be anything for them to be fighting over. It, it, there's no real reason why the gangs are there other than that's where the story takes place. I'm not sure what else I can say about the gangs. The primary villain of the film is Silver Lion. Silver Lion is played by Byron Mann. Silver Lion is a former henchman of, I believe he was called Golden Lion, who was the former leader of the Lion Gang. You can see the theme here. And he assassinated the leader of the Lion Gang in order to steal a shipment of gold that the Lion Gang was supposed to protect. And this is the beginning of the story. Silver Lion is presented as a little bit goofy, a little bit over the top, constantly laughing. It's not a bad portrayal. He's actually fairly interesting. His hairstyle looks like it comes out of anime rather than a kung fu movies. He's not the worst part of the film. He's not. The closest thing to a mentor in the film is the character of the abbot, played by kung fu legend Gordon Liu. Essentially, the character of the blacksmith, played by RZA himself, is shipwrecked in China and rescued by Shaolin monks, where he becomes first essentially the janitor of the abbey and then becomes a student there. And he learns everything he can learn in the abbey and then is sent out into the world to learn more. At which point he becomes a blacksmith. I'm not sure how that's learning more. I'm not sure how that plays into learning more about Zen Buddhism. But that's what happens. And so these abstract lessons are taught to the RZA, the blacksmith, by this old classic style Zen abbot. Now, this film, instead of having a hero, has a trio of allies. Primarily, the character that I suppose is supposed to be the hero is the blacksmith, Thaddeus, played by the RZA. Thaddeus is a freed, escaped slave. Yeah, I said that right. He's a freed and escaped slave, which doesn't make any sense. They show it to you in the story why it happened, and it still doesn't make that much sense. It's plausible but unnecessary. And the RZA is not an actor. He's not terrible in the role, but his character is so laid back and so passive that you can't really root for him. A hero, by definition, is an active force, someone attempting to change the world, and the RZA's character is simply trying to get by in it, and that's not heroic. His involvement in the story is precipitated by the fact that he, as the blacksmith, made the weapons that were used to kill Golden Lion, and he feels guilty about that, despite the fact that he's the blacksmith who made all of the other weapons that killed everyone else that's been killed in the town. It's only when Golden Lion is killed that he begins to feel guilty. Keep in mind that this is after he's gone to the Zen Buddhist abbey and learned all of his wonderful life lessons, he still doesn't care that he's making weapons and killing all of these people. Um, he's got a love interest in the movie who's a prostitute. He is apparently her only client, but it's clear that she doesn't feel the same way about him or about leaving the town. He wants out, she doesn't. And it's hard to root for someone who's that blind to the fact that the woman that he loves is not in love with him, because if she was, she wouldn't charge. I mean, really, if she's taking your money for sex, she's not in love with you, dude. She's just not. And it diminishes the character. It makes him look like an idiot. It really does. Next, you have Rick Yune as the X-Blade. The X-Blade, also known as Zen Yi. He's the son of the Golden Lion who has come to Jungle Village. He was originally going to ask his father for permission to marry the woman he loves, but now he's going to avenge his father and then marry the woman he loves. And he's a kung fu master who uses all kinds of weapons and whatnot. When he fights, it's pretty cool. It's also really, really gory. He does a pretty good job. He's significantly a better actor than the RZA. He's more interesting. If the film had focused on him a little more, he could have stood to have been the hero. But the film divides its attention between the RZA and Rick Yune and Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe is the third ally, a character called Jackknife. Yeah, they named the character Jackknife and he doesn't have another name. He is not so much a martial artist as a knife fighter. He does a pretty good job in the film as an actor. He does a pretty good job with his fight sequences. He is a well, he works for the Chinese government, and he's there not so much to get the gold back as he is to avenge himself against a former ally turned enemy who's one of the people trying to get the gold. And his character maybe could have been the hero, but works better as an ally. So those are your three heroes, and none of them is moved to the center to build the story around them. Here's the center of the story, and you've got three people around it, and the focus of the story right in the middle is left empty, and it's noticeable. And that's now, along the way, there are a number of lesser villains that have to be taken out. As usual, there aren't too many standouts. Possibly the only one is with a golden lion and a silver lion. Of course, there's a brass lion. An actor named actually, he's not an actor. His name is Kun Lee, and he's apparently a mixed martial artist who got the role because the RZA saw him in a fight and said, "That guy, I like that guy," and put him in the movie. He may make more movies, but he doesn't stand out too much. The way the film works, however, is that with three heroes, each one has a final fight at the end, and the final fight at the end for the RZA is a character called Brass Body. That's Dave Bautista, formerly of the WWE. And he's basically Colossus from the X-Men, but with brass instead of steel. And their fight is pretty good. It's an entertaining fight. Dave Bautista does a pretty good job. You can definitely see Dave Bautista doing more movies. You're going to want to see an action movie with Dave Bautista and The Rock in it at some point, because, yeah, Dave Bautista brings it in this one. Not that he's a great actor, but he's definitely good enough to be an action film star. So, yeah, I did like Dave Bautista in this. Then there's a character named Poison Dagger, played by Daniel Wu. That is the character that Russell Crowe is after. That's the former ally that Russell Crowe is trying to take down. their fight is entertaining enough. Again, Russell Crowe's not a martial artist, but they did enough with his character and his fighting style to make his fights entertaining. And of course, the main bad guy, your Silver Lion, that's the one that the X-Blade has to take out, and their fight is fairly entertaining. In fact, most of the martial arts are fairly entertaining. Now, that brass lion guy, he's actually there to fight. Well, he's not there to fight for her. He's there to be a henchman. But Lucy Liu is in this movie. And while she's not one of the heroes, she plays a part that's relatively important, sort of. Basically, because she's Lucy Liu, they made her part as big as it is. She's the madam who runs the brothel. And she petitioned to get a fight scene put in the movie for her. It wasn't originally written. And when they put the fight scene in, they had her character go up against the brass lion. And so there's that fight scene. And it's a pretty decent fight scene. Again, it was put in as an afterthought, but given the way the plot of this movie doesn't quite mesh, things that happen as an afterthought don't fit any worse than the things that were intended anyway, so it doesn't matter. Rather than having a specific comic relief character in the film goes for the idea of having most of the other characters carry a certain degree of the film's humor. Particularly, Russell Crowe's character is opium addicted, and some of his antics are pretty entertaining. And the guy that plays the villain is actually kind of funny. He's almost a kung fu version of the Joker, but we're not really talking about the Heath Ledger Joker or the Jack Nicholson Joker. It's a little closer to the Cesar Romero Joker. He's just goofy. I liked him in the part, and I actually liked the fact that we didn't have a character that was there just to be a goofball, because I don't like the goofball characters. I don't mind them if they have something else to do, but I don't like them when all they do is goof off. That's just a wasted character. And this film doesn't have one of those, so I guess that's a plus. So your upside. The upside of this film is that the martial arts actually work pretty well. It's choreographed by Corey Yuen, and it is one of the more entertaining martial arts movies I've ever seen. It's certainly not an instant classic, but as far as the fight scenes go, if you're a martial arts film fan, you won't be disappointed with any of the action, and there's plenty of it. There is a whole lot of it. That's pretty much the only upside. It's decently shot. It's not great, but you're not going to lose the action. It's not going to be just a big mess of things flying around. There's not a lot of shaky cam, which I hate in fight scenes. So you'll be able to understand what's happening. And so the martial arts. And some of the acting, I suppose you could give it to Russell Crowe. A lot of people liked Lucy Liu's performance in this film. I thought she was a little stiff. I also thought she was a little too close to her character in Kill Bill. It was like the RZA was trying to recreate that character and came up with a second-rate version of a character despite the fact that he had the same actress playing her. And I didn't like her as much as some other people did. And the downside. The downside is definitely the lack of a central hero to unify the story, to unify the other heroes, to unify the group around the fact that there's no one to build the story around. There's just this hole in the center of the story that never gets occupied. The fact that it's like you've got three separate stories going on, and they just happen to be taking place in the same town, and the three separate heroes happen to know each other and work together a little bit, but instead of that group occupying the center, they're all standing around it. and the camera's focused on the center, so there's nothing to latch onto, and that really brings the film down. And then in addition to that, the film is very gory. The film is actually so gory that it would have made sense if this was released under the Grindhouse label, like Machete and, you know, Planet Terror. It's gory like that. It's really, really gory. And the truth is that if it wasn't as gory, you could have put this movie out for younger audiences and they would have eaten it up. This could have easily been a PG-13 movie if they left all the gore out. And it would have been significantly more enjoyable because the gore doesn't add anything to it but the higher rating or the more restrictive rating. It's the only thing the gore adds. It's unnecessary. And it actually hurts the film. It's over the top. It's gruesome. And yeah, it makes it more adult only by making it so only adults can see it. There was no need for it, and it doesn't help. And that definitely makes it a downside. Now, as a diehard martial arts movie fan myself, I was really looking forward to this movie. And in all honesty, watching this movie, I had a lot of fun. I was very entertained by the martial arts. Absolutely, the martial arts are great. But as a film and as a lover of good stories, this film can't be rated any higher than 2 stars simply because it's fun without being good. It's not even something that's just grab your popcorn and leave your brain behind. It, you can, and if you love martial arts movies, you will be able to watch this movie and enjoy it. In fact, if you like martial arts movies, I do recommend going to see it. But it's still only a 2 star movie. It's a 2 star movie that martial arts people will like. You've certainly seen worse movies and enjoyed them on Black Belt Theater or, you know, Kung Fu Theater on Saturday afternoons. And this fits in with those, which is why I wish it was less gory, because if it was less gory, it could be shown on Black Belt Theater on a Saturday afternoon, and kids could eat it up just like a cartoon. It really could be without the gore. It could have been. And that's my rating. So, did you see The Man with the Iron Fists? What'd you think about it? Did you see the end and see that it sets up a sequel? Would you see the sequel? Would you prefer the sequel didn't have the RZA in it? Just let him direct. There's certainly enough talent in Rick Yoon to carry a sequel by himself. Might be interesting. What do you think?